Are you too busy, too stressed out, unhealthy? Then this is the place for you. Welcome to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals, where we help you create wellness and balance with a holistic approach that will work for you, even with the busiest of schedules, so you can live the life you want. And now, here's your host, Diane Randall.
Hello and welcome to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals. I'm Diane Randall, your host. Thank you so much for joining, and if you're new to the show, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here listening. Each episode of Balanced Living for Busy Professionals will leave you with the best life-changing wisdom, inner tools, and strategies to help you break free from any habits, patterns, or even attitudes that may be keeping you stuck in place. That's why I'm so excited about today's episode, because I'm talking to Dr. Michele Summers Colon about creating healthy habits that can help you feel more energized and balanced in your life every day, no matter what your schedule is or how busy you are. This episode is about how to improve your energy, vitality, and overall health and well-being. So you'll want to stay until the end. I'm so happy to introduce you to my guest, Dr. Michele Summers Colon. Dr. Michele is a physician, yoga health coach, and overall health and wellness expert. She is the creator of the Body Wisdom Coaching Program, where she helps people develop healthy habits. She helps people with meditation and nutrition. She has been featured in various print and online publications, including Bloomberg Business Week, USA Today, USA News, and World Reports, Health Magazine, and more. Welcome, Dr. Michele.
Thank you, Diane. I'm really happy to be here today.
I am happy that you're here talking about habits. Habits.
That's right. Yep.
We have them, good or bad, we have them. And I'm happy that you're here to help us to look at our habits and maybe form some healthier ones. So first of all, when you say habits, and this is just the framework for the conversation, what do you mean?
Well, we all get into habits, meaning our daily activities that we do without even thinking about it. It's like we get up, a lot of us get up, first thing we do is go to the bathroom. It's just a habit. Next thing some of us do is we brush our teeth. It's just a habit. We can do it in a different order, but we don't. We do it in the same order every day. So that's what I mean by habits. And there are easy ways to develop new healthy habits to start improving things like sleep and energy and eating and our diets. That we can just do little by little changes day by day to start creating new habits.
Because you're not saying that the habits we have are bad. You're just saying that we do them without thinking about them. And before you know, we have all these patterns of behavior we're just doing, and we're not even thinking about them, whether they're good or bad.
Right.
So how can we, and this is always challenging, how do we even know if a habit's bad for us or not? It's not bad just by looking at it. So how do so how do you look at that?
So we look at what are the areas of our lives that we feel we need to improve. Do we need to improve our exercise? Are we getting enough exercise every day? Most of us aren't because we're busy and, we just don't really think about it. We have hectic schedules. So that's one area we want to look at. We want to look at if we're getting the right amount of sleep, because about 70% of Americans are sleep deprived. So we want to look at our sleep, we want to look at our exercise, we want to look at our food. Are we eating the way we want to be eating? Are we eating things that we know that we should be eating, or do we kind of know in the back of our mind, I shouldn't be eating this, but I do it anyway? So just looking at those major areas of our life, we want to start looking at what are we doing on a regular basis? And when we're honest with ourselves and look at those areas that we want to change, we could probably just really quickly, even just thinking about it right now, we can probably think of a couple habits that we do in those different areas that we know we need to change if we want to improve those areas of our life. Now, if we don't want to improve it because we feel good about it, like some people say, well, I get 6 hours of sleep and I feel good about that, and I feel well rested. I'm not groggy in the morning. I don't drink coffee to stay awake. Then they probably don't even need to change anything because they're doing well. But most of us aren't getting enough sleep. So that's just one example. But that's how we can tell if we have some bad habits going on that we need to address.
So we always say changing a habit is very, very tough because we've been doing it for so long. So how do you support people in taking a bad habit and turning it into a healthy habit?
Well, one of the things that I do, it's called the Kaizen approach. And I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, but he also talks about it in that book. He uses different terminology, but it's the same idea of making small little changes daily that lead up in the end to big changes. So let's say, for example, let's just take sleep, for example. Let's say we know we need to go to bed at 10 o'clock to get an 8-hour sleep in because we have to get up at 6 in the morning, but we're going to bed at 11 o'clock every night. So we feel like a little bit tired in the morning. We want to get that 1 extra hour. So one of the things that we would do is start changing our bedtime back very slowly to get it down to 10 o'clock. So for maybe a week, let's say, we would change it from 11 o'clock to 10:45. Now, something like that, a 15-minute change in our bedtime, is very easy to do, and it's not really going to mess up our body's rhythm. But if we tried to go from 11 o'clock to 10 o'clock, we'd probably just lay in bed awake at night for a whole hour thinking, why am I not falling asleep? Because your body's used to going to sleep at 11. So making little changes like that, little by little, will give us the changes that we want. But if we try to do too big of a change at once, and that's why a lot of diets, gym programs, exercise programs fail, and people's New Year's resolutions go out the window after a couple of weeks because they try to make all these big changes at once. And that is what's really hard. So if we do little changes day by day or week by week, we can get those big results in the end, but we can't do it in one big swoop.
We can't do it in one big swoop. And you talked about New Year's resolution. And I always advocate, don't wait until the first of the year if you really want to make a change.
That's right.
I mean, we're so conditioned that, you wait till the first of the year. But like you said, you start small and you just keep changing little by little. Before you know
That's right.
You've worked that sleep muscle and you're getting enough sleep.
That's right. And when you work with someone, like you have, people talk about having accountability partners or accountability buddies, or if you work together in a group, that's why some programs like Weight Watchers do have good results, because people are there in a group supporting each other, cheering each other on. And it might sound kind of, a little corny, but it actually works when let's say you have a group of 10 people and you're all working on these little changes. It's part of that idea of you don't want to let your group down, but you also don't want to let yourself down. And so working in a group with people, or even having like one partner to help you stay accountable, actually does work.
Yeah, and that's always ideal. But for many of us, and I found this in my life and with my clients, our families love us, okay? They love us, and whatever we do, they're always there to support us in a way, but not necessarily in a way that may support us in making the change. So what do you recommend to people that don't really have an accountability partner?
Yeah, if you don't have an accountability partner and you're doing it on your own, you can still do it. But like I said, you got to do it in small chunks, in small pieces. Don't make it too hard for yourself. Don't try to do everything all at once. Maybe work on one area of your life at a time. So let's say you want to work on exercise and sleep. Well, maybe try the sleep thing first for a couple weeks. Start getting that under control. Once you feel like that's a new habit, that you're going to bed at the time you want, getting up when you want, then start working on the exercise part. If you try doing too much at once, it's just a recipe for disaster.
Right. And I hear you when you say that. So how long does it take to form a new habit?
Well, there's all kinds of statistics out there or books that are quoting different numbers. What I found is usually about 3 to 4 weeks, people will start really getting the grasp of their new habit and really feeling like they have it under their belt if they're working on it day by day.
Awesome. So if people are listening and they say, tomorrow I'm going to start creating a healthy habit. So how do you plan to make a habit? What steps would you tell someone to help them successfully incorporate a positive habit into their life? Let's say, what tips would you give them if they want to create a brand new habit?
So if someone were working on this by themselves and they decided they wanted to start a brand new habit, I would start either writing it down in a journal where you can, refer back to it every day, or even in your iPhone or your tablet, whatever you keep right there with you, putting reminders in your phone. So if let's say it's bedtime, because that's an easy one. If you're trying to move it back 15 minutes this week, the following week, another 15 minutes, by the end of that month, you'll be at the new bedtime if you were going from 11 o'clock to 10 o'clock. But you're going to have to put reminders in your phone. It's 10:45, a little reminder goes off. Oh, time to go to bed. Things like that they seem really simple, like, oh yeah, that's so obvious. But little things like that actually do work. So writing it down, keeping a journal. Okay, tonight I'm going to bed at 11:05. Oops, I kind of fell off the wagon a little, but it's okay. Tomorrow I'm going to go to bed at 10:45, and you just keep a little journal of it, either in your phone or in a tablet. In a journal next to your bed, so that you can keep track of what you're doing. Give yourself little rewards at the end of the first week. If you were able to stay on that schedule for the whole week, give yourself a little reward. And rewards don't always have to be food, because a lot of people think, okay, the first thing they think of is, okay, I'm going to go have that ice cream sundae, or, something. Give yourself something else, like, oh, I'm going to go, visit a friend for lunch, or I'm going to go, get this little thing that I've been wanting to get, but I've been holding back because I just don't think I should be spending the money on that. Well, give yourself little small rewards when you reach these goals.
Oh, that's awesome. Because it's important to reward yourself with the little steps that you accomplish. Because what happens if we just wait until the big thing happens, until we've accomplished all the steps that lead up to the new habit that we want to change?
Yeah.
Do you recommend, and I just heard you say that incrementally is what I thought I heard you say, you need to reward yourself and not just wait to see if you're going to lose weight, for example.
Exactly. And think of little rewards that things you want to do, but you hold back because you're thinking, oh, I don't deserve that, or, oh, I should be at work instead of doing that. Give yourself little rewards that are fun, things that you like to do, like meeting up with a friend that you don't normally get to do, or, going somewhere that you don't normally, spend an extra hour out of your week to do.
You also say you should always check in with your why.
Yeah, that's right. Always checking in with your why, because a lot of times people get this idea in their head, like, okay, I need to lose this weight because, this chart says that I need to be this weight for my height or whatever. That's just one example, but really think about your why. Why do you want to lose that weight? If weight is the example we're looking at here, is it because you want to feel better in your body? Does it feel a little like too heavy right now when you're walking around, or your clothes fitting you too tight and you don't like the way it looks, or you don't like the way it feels? Like, check in with your own personal why on why you want to lose that weight, or why you want to get more sleep, or why you want to continue working out because you've kind of slacked off lately. And so really get in touch with that why, because everyone's why is different. For some people, it's health reasons, because maybe their parents had diabetes and they're afraid that they're going to get it because they keep putting on weight, or they just don't feel comfortable in their clothes anymore. And who wants to buy a whole new wardrobe, So check in with your why on why you really want to make that change. And that will always keep you grounded and, keep your eye on the goal.
Yeah, that sounds like some good information versus just telling yourself this is something you have to do. I remember when I was younger, I mean, really, really young, and a lot of my family members had type 2 diabetes. So I can remember maybe I was in my teens making a conscious decision that, you know what, I don't want that, because I've saw the things that happen in my, with my relatives that had the diabetes. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to do things so I won't get that, because that's something I don't want. I mean, I didn't know what habits I needed at the time, but I knew that I wanted to shape my life in a way where I wouldn't have to deal with the diabetes, because I witnessed the fallout, and it wasn't a pretty sight for some. Mm-hmm. So I feel that shaped habits of mine. For example, I can remember eating a lot of McDonald's and fried foods back at that time. But once I started really thinking about habits to support me in my, in what I ate, my food choices, I remember just not wanting that anymore. I want a habit to figure out what's best for me, even though I had no clue at the time. But I knew enough as to why I didn't want to continue doing what I was doing in terms of my food, because I knew that it wasn't a healthy habit for me.
Yeah, and that's a great example, because a lot of us can look at our family history or the way we grew up and think, I know my parents did the best they could at the time, but I certainly don't want this habit to continue into old age, because, I want to feel healthy. I want to feel good in my body. I want to feel energetic. And we know, we have like a knowing that if we continue these X, Y, and Z things, that we're going to age in a way that we don't want to age. And we're all going to age, we just have to find a way to do it gracefully. So that's a really great example when you can look at your family history or what what you saw growing up.
And on the other hand, there are people that I work with, and it's just, they have habits that they know intellectually they don't support them in their life for whatever reason, but they can't change. The conditioning's so deep for whatever reason as to why this habit continues. How do you get someone that's so deeply ingrained in a habit that's not good for them to really see the effects of that habit?
That's a great question, because I'm sure we can all think of people in our lives that fit that category. When it comes to that question, they really have to want to change. There has to be a reason that they want to change this habit. If it's like, let's say it's someone we love and we want them to change because we know it's not good for them. If they don't want to change, they're not going to change. So it has to come from within. It has to come from your own why. Trying to get someone else to change because we know it's good for them isn't enough, unfortunately. And even in my medical practice, I see this day in and day out when patients with I see a lot of diabetics, when patients with diabetes come in and their family member comes in with them, and they want so desperately to help their family member, but they don't want to change. They're just coming in to get the treatment because they know they need the treatment, but they're not at that point where they're ready to change. And none of us, me being a doctor or their spouse or their kids, none of them can really help them until they're ready.
Okay. So like you said, if they don't have the why and they're not ready, then what I hear you saying is there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, but there's nothing we can do when they're in that situation. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you don't have the magic bullet.
Yeah,
I'm joking with you. I know you don't.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's some exceptions to the rule when, let's say, it's our child, let's say it's our teenager, we see them going down the wrong path, or our college student child who's technically an adult, but they still rely on mom and dad for stuff.
Oh yeah.
We still have a little bit of influence on these guys. Or, if it's a parent of ours that's living in our home, and they, want to eat whatever they want to eat. I'm thinking of my dad, for example, but, we still have a little bit of control because maybe we're buying the food or maybe we're the ones preparing the meals. So in some cases we can influence it a little bit more. But for the most part, they really have to want to make those changes.
Yeah. And I see that. I've experienced that. And what I feel I have to do now, because in the past, it's like, oh my God, I want to really help this person get it. But it's not up to me. I'm not the habit police or the, change police. So I've gotten to a place in my own life where I want to support that family member, that client right where they are. I just want to hold that space and support them without judging them as to what their bad habits are, because what I've learned is it's not for me, even though I may want something different for that person, to judge them for where they are in terms of their health and their habits.
Right. But the other thing that we can do is lead by example. So,
yes.
When we're making changes and they see us, I've had this happen several times in my practice and with some of my friends where, I started losing weight because I started working out and really getting into shape. And, as I'm 48 now, I feel younger than I did in my 30s because I'm more active. I do yoga. I eat better. So I made a lot of small changes over time, and I have patients and friends saying, wait, what are you doing differently? Because you look younger now than the last time I saw you, which was 5 years ago or whatever. And so they'll start asking questions when we start making these changes. So that is one thing we can do that people do take notice.
Yeah, I understand that. I became plant-based about 10 years ago. And all I've done is just model that behavior. I didn't put it on anyone, and I've impacted more people by just modeling that behavior, whether I'm with a client, whether I'm at work, wherever I am and I'm eating. I've had more impact by just modeling that behavior than telling someone what they should or shouldn't do.
Yeah, it's so true, because when someone is thinking, maybe I need to make some changes here, and then they see you getting great results, they'll start asking questions, and then they'll start being a little bit more curious, and then it might open the door for them to say, you know what, maybe I am ready. And then that's our doorway in to help them to make those changes.
So do you feel that you can inspire people more so than try to tell them what they need to do?
Yeah, for sure.
I like that. I love that. Well, Dr. Michele, I am enjoying our conversation. And for someone that's listening and they want to just start looking at their habits, what's one thing you can tell them to do tomorrow to jumpstart their life in creating more healthy habits?
The first thing I would have them do is to just sit quietly, close your eyes where you're, in a place where you can close your eyes. Take a couple deep breaths in and think to themselves, what area do I need to make changes in? Is it my food? Is it my exercise? Is it my sleep? And whatever comes up for them, that's the area that they can start making small changes, and they can make one change at a time. Like I said, don't try to make too many changes at once because it's too hard, and stick with that one thing for at least a week and see how you feel at the end of that week.
Well, Dr. Michele, I want to thank you for sharing your experiences, your expertise in giving the listeners tips on how they can create healthy habits. And I'm certainly taking away some tips that I can use right away from our conversation. That's the one thing I love about these podcasts. I get to talk to awesome people like you who inspire me to do more in my own life. So thank you.
Thank you too. Thanks for having me.
Dr. Michele Colon's information will be on the Balanced Living for Busy Professionals show notes on this website. And if you want to know more about her, All the notes will be included in this episode of Balanced Living for Busy Professionals. Let me know what you think about this episode, and if there are any topics you would like to hear, let me know. Leave your comments or voicemail on the website. Your feedback helps us to bring the best guests, topics, and information that you want to hear to help you change your life from the inside out.
Thank you for listening to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals. This podcast is sponsored by DianeRandallConsults.com. If you like this show, the best way to support it is by leaving 5-star feedback on iTunes. And please, feel free to email your questions, comments, and suggestions to feedback@DianeRandallConsults.com. Until next week, namaste.